So I'll start letting people in. Okay. Hey, how's everyone doing today? Good to see you all once again. Got a few people still joining, so I'll just make sure and let them in before we get rolling. And yep. All right. Bruce, good to see you. And Johan as well. Ron, Rip, cool. Carl's here today. That's awesome. Donna here again. Okay, so let me see here. Yeah, I think we can get rolling. A few other people might join, but we can just let them in as they roll in. And I will give an introduction to the session, and then we'll get rolling. We have a special guest today. So let's see here. First off, we'll just say where you are. For those folks like on Facebook and YouTube that aren't familiar with the program, this is Piano Tech Radio Hour. It's being brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses, an online educational resource that offers you cutting-edge instruction from piano industry masters without leaving your home. You can find out more at www.pianotechniciansmasterclass.com. And today's guest is an old friend from when I was in New York City. I moved there around 2009, and we met pretty soon thereafter, at local chapter PTG meetings in New York City. By the way, New York City has just a really great chapter there with lots of really cool technicians. Folks that I'm sure you've heard of probably, we got Mario Egrek often drops into those sessions, and Atsundo Aikawa, who's a big proponent of the educational resources the PTG has to offer. So anyways, great place to be a piano technician and learn a lot of cool stuff. Also kind of an impetus for, got a bunch of people in the waiting room. Let's make sure they get let in. Yeah, also like an impetus for Piano Technicians Masterclasses and Radio Hour, again, trying to give access to people to all sorts of educational resources. Again, being in New York, I became acutely aware, there was so many more resources for learning, great information on pianos than you might find elsewhere in the country and the world. So it's great for us all to be able to share what's going on everywhere. So today's guest, his name is Brian Whiteon, and I'll give a little bit of a formal introduction, and then I'll tell you a bit more about him as I know him. But beginning in the Twin Cities of Minnesota at Steinway & Sons retail giant Schmidt Music and moving to Brooklyn in 2001, Brian has worked with several of the finest piano rebuilders and tuners in New York City. Early influences include established tuner technicians Steve Dresch and the late Gene Manfrini. Experience in the local PTG led to association with esteemed technicians Daniel Levitan, RPT, Mike Miccio, RPT, and soundboard guru and old world master craftsman Marco DeLellis. In late 2011, Big Wrench, which is his storefront piano shop, they opened a sales showroom and repair building shop on the popular Smith Street in Brooklyn, New York. They have since relocated to a bigger facility on the corner of Hoyt and DeGrasse Streets. And I'll bring him on the spotlight so you could all see who I'm talking about here, as well as myself. And we'll start the conversation. But Brian, welcome to Piano Tech Radio Hour. It's really good to have you here.
Thank you, Ethan. Nice. I appreciate you inviting me to come along, man. I've caught some of your programs, but Saturday afternoons has usually been a pretty busy time for me in the shop, so I've missed a lot more than I've caught.
Well, it's good to have you here. And as I was reading through that bio, I remember when you took the leap to open up a storefront in pianos, and that I can imagine that was a pretty big, a pretty big undertaking to do.
Yeah,
to do that. Well, what was that like that time deciding to open up a shop where people could come in actually look at pianos and have a showroom of sorts.
That was the time. 2011, late 2011. I moved here in 2001. I learned to tune in the Twin Cities, as you mentioned, but I was, barely competent when I moved to New York. But I did a lot of pianos, maybe sometimes as
Did
many
you
as
say
six.
barely competent or fairly competent?
Barely competent when I moved to New
Barely.
York.
Nice.
But I did a lot of pianos, sometimes 6 a day on the trains and buses, and no matter where the piano was, it was like the north end of the Bronx or far out in Queens. I would be on it. I would be on the bus, on the train to the end of the line, and on the bus, and I just was like, after 10 years of doing that, I was just like, I can't keep doing this as a field tuner. I still enjoy the process, but I'm going crazy with the transportation in New York. I'm sure you're late.
Right.
Sometimes you miss your train. All of a sudden you're stuck a half hour. You're trying to figure out another way to get there. I obviously was just a little bit burned out of just being a field tuner. And so I just decided I wanted to work on pianos in my own terms. And it did start out in my apartment. So it wasn't like all of a sudden I became a storefront owner, but so I sold some pianos out of my apartment, did some work out of a storage unit, and then jumped to a storefront.
Cool. Storage unit. I didn't even know. I don't know the logistics of that. I've thought about it. I thought of
Yeah.
doing that, having a little storage unit shop in New York City. For those folks who have not lived in New York City, I mean, it's quite an undertaking to rent space in that city. It's expensive, and also just finding a good place and a good, that's worth your time and energy is hard as well. So yeah.
I would agree. I think in a way, the one of the worst businesses you could be in New York City is having a piano shop in terms of cost per square foot. The only thing is, it's the only thing that I did know how to do. Since then, we've branched out into guitar sales, and there's a funny story about that as well. But I mean, it's all I knew how to do, and so that's kind of what I did. But there's a reason why most of the piano rebuilders moved out of the city a long time ago. They up in Yonkers and Long Island. A lot of those spots used to be right in the city. And I mean, you still got AC Piano Craft in Queens. And I mean, who else is in the city? There's not a lot of folks.
Yeah, I mean, AC Piano Craft, we did have Alex on the show, I think once, maybe twice. And he's kind of, as far as a rebuilder who he has a pretty expansive space, like a warehouse space. It's in Queens, not in Manhattan, but it is right across the river. And it just kind of seems like he's grandfathered in there with that space in terms of he's been there so long. Hopefully he has some sort of, good rental agreement negotiated with whoever owns the building. But yeah, who knows? I mean, I can imagine something like that where you might get forced out of a building like that after a amount of time. There's been high rises built around the warehouse
Yeah,
space
around
that he's
that,
in.
in Long Island City, that's pretty hot. There's another guy. I don't know if you know Tim Nurenberger. He's in Bushwick. He's got a nice space, but so there's a little bit of a renaissance of some smaller scale guys. James Carney has a spot in Sunset Park. And then I've got actually a new spot also in Dumbo now. That's where I am now. It's like a Dumbo loft. That's been fun. But onward and upward. It's what we know how to do. So we make it work where we can.
Cool. Well, you give me some photos, like just kind of through the years here, and I'm interested kind of what the stories are behind them. Is it a good time to sort of bring at least a couple of those up? Maybe you can talk us through them.
Yeah, we can spin through those. I mean, I've just
Cool.
open if you guys have any questions and you want to type
Yeah.
in anything. I mean, I'm just open. I certainly didn't prepare a presentation. I still do piano
Yeah.
work 6 to 7 days a week, but I'm not, as you might remember, I was pretty active in the guild for a while. I still am a member, of course, but I'm not doing the presentations like I used to. So I haven't prepared any presentations or anything like that.
Yeah. No.
I'm not doing as much piano work as I used to be, I'm sure you can understand as being a business owner. A lot of times you're just managing the business. And then now I'm also splitting my time between two spaces. So, but I'm still heavily involved in pianos. I saved a lot of the core rebuilding and tuning and regulation pictures. Just I didn't send those just because we've all seen those so many times. So I sent some pictures that I thought maybe would be a little bit different.
Cool. Yeah, yeah. I think we got plenty to talk about, but I thought it'd be fun to dive into those pictures. Yeah. And if people have questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. I know Brian has studied with David Stanwood, doing action design and things like that, and just we can talk about all kinds of shop stuff. I'm sure if people are interested in that being the topic of conversation. But yeah, for the time being, let's pop some photos up here and see what kind of stuff we got here. So I have this folder, and we can kind of zoom around here. But what's a good
Yeah.
one to start with?
Let me for some reason my Zoom dropped. I think I'm still here, but let me okay, gotcha. What's a good one to start with?
You want me
I
to
mean,
just
we
pick
can
a
go.
random one?
Yeah, we can just go quick through the beginning. I mean,
Okay.
these are basically from the last 5 years. I mean, I could have kept
Okay.
going, but um, yeah. Bottom right. That's actually down in Tucson, Arizona. I thought that was one of the coolest. This is one of the few that didn't come from my shop or a job that I was on. I thought that was one of the coolest ways to display a piano plate. But there was one thing that I thought was really unique about it. See if you guys can, or see if I mean I don't know. I guess Ethan, you're the only one that can talk, but see if you guys notice anything that I thought made that really interesting.
Other people could unmute. I think I see what you're talking about, but let's
I
anybody got
mean,
a
it would
anybody
have
want to
led
chime
to
in?
quite a bit more work um, than if it was missing something. Put it that way.
Right. Anybody want to chime in? See, all right, I'll go then. The bridge, right? Is the bridge like
Exactly. They took the
yeah.
time to remove the bridge and include it with the plate.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of work.
Definitely. I mean, it really makes it nice, but I would look great without the bridge. But I thought
Yeah.
that looked really cool.
Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
just
love that idea.
keep spinning through. Like I just, there's a little anecdote about every one. This
Yeah.
this is also in the same bar. That's just a really cool way to display an old keyboard that's got a piece of glass over it, just in a bench. You put your
Oh,
drink
nice.
on it, and nice conversation piece.
Where was this again?
That's at a bar in Tucson. I don't know
Tucson.
exactly I don't remember what it was called, but I was there on a little vacation about 5 years ago. And I think those are the only two pictures that were just nothing that I did. I just was like, wow, these are cool.
Yeah, I've done a few of these, uh, especially lately. There's been a few, a few from my traveling in Peru, and then I'll talk about some of the pianos I've encountered and like the stories behind those, which are kind of fascinating stuff. I got to, do some investigation of a couple pianos at the presidential palace in Peru, for example. Um,
Nice.
but yeah, as piano tuners, of course, like we go to these places and we get drawn in whenever there's piano stuff to check out. Um, all right. What's this one?
That we've all seen so many times, but well, maybe not. People, if you do key work, you're going to see that a lot on the sides of the keys. You're going to see signatures. I always, a lot of us, or I sand sides of keys to clean them up, but I would certainly never sign over a signature. And that's definitely not 1989. That'd be 1889. So anytime I see
Oh,
something from
wow.
the 1800s, I always, note it. There's all kinds of old stuff. I mean, I'm an old soul. That's why I love pianos. It's very, if you're working on something from the 60s or 70s, it can be considered newer, whereas most other things like that, most other things you're working on, if it's from the 70s, no one's going to call it, oh, it's not that old.
That's cool. What that was a piano you were working on or just one that you
Oh
came
yeah.
across?
Yeah. I work on a lot of Steinway uprights. That's kind of been one of my
Hmm,
specialties. And I think that came off of a Steinway upright.
cool. This looks fun.
That was down in Cuba. I was hired to work on a piano for a great jazz, still up and coming, but established jazz piano player here in New York named David Verreyes, who did a recording session down in Santiago. And that was just in a museum, and the fallboard was actually shut, and there was no one around. And I was like, "Oh, this looks cool." And then I opened it up, and what that is termite. That's an example of termite damage. So the
Ooh.
termites ate those keys well, they probably ate a lot of all the keys, but they certainly ate most of those keys in the middle bass.
Wow, yummy keys, I guess. They look like they must have been delicious. Have you now we both know, I'm sure, Ben Truhaft, and I've talked about Ben Truhaft here and there. And actually, I think Donna Bird had said she had done some work with him. She shows up here pretty much every week. Um, I know you went to Cuba. You said you went there multiple times, right? I've never been to Cuba.
I've gone there quite a few times for sure. It's just been a place. I play some Cuban music as much as I can, and I just been lucky enough to go there on multiple occasions. But this trip was almost 2 weeks, and that was probably the richest because I mean, not only I got paid, I got paid a rate that made it worthwhile to go. That's for sure, and to work on this piano. I mean, there's a whole nother presentation I could put together, the challenges of working on a piano in Cuba, just taking down as much as I could and trying to get the piano to work. It was a August Forstner, but from they got it from back before the fall of the Berlin Wall. So it would be an old East German produced piano. And there, I couldn't really get any information on it before. So it was just try to prepare yourself and go with a giant couple of suitcases and get it to work. The recording, we could post a link, was actually Grammy nominated. So it came out 3 or 4 years ago. It's called
Wow, nice.
Singer's Grove by David Vareas. We can post a link.
Cool.
It's pretty cool. The piano sounds nice. So I was pretty nervous about that because I was doing a lot of tuning and regulation and some voicing on it.
Now, I mentioned Ben Truhaff, and I mentioned you've been to Cuba a bunch. Did you ever interact with him? Like he did the
Yeah,
Send a
sir.
Piano to Havana thing.
Yeah,
Did you do
yeah.
that with him
I
ever,
never,
or is
I
that just
never
a
did.
separate
He
project?
gave me some. I mean, anyone who knows Ben knows that he's absolute one of a kind
I've got to
individual.
get
Who's
him on this. I got to get
Yeah, you
him here.
should. Yeah, he's got more stories than I do for sure. I spoke with him and I've worked with him over the years, but Send Up Piano kind of had, I think, been in a lull when I first started going there, so there wasn't much happening. So I don't have a whole lot of experience with what he was doing, but I know the story. The short story is he's put a bunch of pianos on a boat and just sent them down to Cuba. So that's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. It sounds like a big project to undertake. Pretty impressed.
I always take pictures of things in the field that I just find ridiculous. That was an upright piano, so cool.
Nice.
That's all there is to it.
And this, yes, I feel like this has
We've
been
all
at least
seen
once or
this. We've all been
twice.
lucky.
Oh
Yeah,
gosh.
yeah. That was actually in my piano here at home, the oldest piano I've ever owned, and I still have it. It's now at the shop. I finally decided to rebuild it. 1876 Steinway upright. That was in the back for, I don't know, maybe since 1876. Certainly looks like it could be that old.
I guess so.
That was in the
Like a,
back of a Steinway upright, clearly not factory, but that was I've never seen anything like that. Someone obviously decided to try to put a giant spring to give the soundboard some support and help the crown.
wow. And then, so that's a piece of wood that is what, drilled into the,
I think it was attached to the beams, if I remember correctly. This is, again, we're
huh.
starting from the back. So we're going to get more recent. That was probably 4 years ago. That was in the shop. Yeah, I think the support was attached to the beams, and then that was a really heavy spring. I remember being like, wow. I think we just kept it. We didn't. We shored up the cracks, and I think I just kept the spring in there.
Yeah, yeah. I've definitely learned over the years if there's something in a piano and I can't explain why it's there, sometimes just go ahead and leave it.
Right. I mean, it wasn't rattling it. I mean, I'm sure it was doing something. I have just never seen anything like that to try to support the natural crown of a soundboard. Just probably the worst dip punching job I've ever seen. I don't know who did it, but looks like the dip punchings were drinking a little bit that day.
What's going on here? Are the
Exactly.
uh, are they just cutting
They
circles
may have been
with
homemade.
felt and
Yeah, they may have been
poking a
homemade. I mean,
hole in them?
I'm sure you guys have all seen the old newsprint punchings. I always save those if I can get them intact. It's probably the same idea. Someone just decided to make some dip punchings, but it's just kind of funny how they made those.
Nice. The kicker would be if they're made out of like a what do you call it? Scotch Brite scouring pads.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, sure that would work, but I don't even remember what piano that was in. Oh, this is interesting. This is actually probably the best picture of the lot, in my opinion. That was a piano that belonged to the late Cecil Taylor, who, if you guys don't know,
Oh, I've
was
heard about this
one of
piano.
the best, one of the most known, one of the most famous avant-garde jazz piano players of all time.
Yeah.
And just a trailblazer in so many ways. And that was his piano. I was the last person to tune it before he died. And
What? Oh my gosh, that's
he
amazing.
he played, as far as I could tell, he played through the ivories. We've all kind of seen the left,
Yeah.
the notes on the left where the heads were, or the very edges of the heads were up. But he played the other ones obviously flaked off and he never replaced them. But then it's hard to tell, but the wood has, it's almost like it was termite eating it, but that's just organic. He played a wear into the wood after the ivory was
Wow.
gone. So that was a very rich picture. I also repaired some jack tails, and I just actually replaced the jacks. And so I still have a couple of the jacks from his piano as well.
That's pretty cool. And who's the guy who has the loft in Tribeca? Mark, is
Oh,
that his
yeah.
name?
Yeah,
What's his
Mark
name?
Hennon. Mark Hennon.
Mark
Yeah,
Hennon.
he was
He's
doing.
tuned this piano,
Yeah,
right?
he had the gig, I think,
Hmm.
for a while, and then I just knew his caretaker, Cecil Taylor's last caretaker, and he called me, and this was really only a couple months before he died, and he was pretty frail, and I remember it was like 100 degrees in there, and it was like a warm fall day already outside, and I was just like baking trying to get through
Now,
that tune.
now, did you hear Mark Hennon's story about it?
I've heard a couple stories about the money in the
Yeah.
piano.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like all of a sudden he finds it and sees Taylor's like, oh yeah, I just didn't realize. I
Didn't
forgot about
realize
that.
that's where
And then
he
I
had
remember
money.
Mark was like, oh, I guess I need to learn how to respect money. I feel that way sometimes too. I'm like, oh wait, I gotta get that invoice out. Oh, I really should respect my income a little bit more.
I see there's been some comments coming in. I just want to make sure I don't miss them. Let's see. The bridge. Oh, so people did answer that question. I just didn't see it. That was the bridge from that piano hanging on the wall. Donna Bird said she was able to go to Cuba 3 times, all with the Senda piano to Havana. The last time was for a month with the performance school, and she had great times. Susan Klein said she has an 1887 Steinway C that she's just starting.
Nice.
Um,
Steinway C is a
and
really gorgeous instrument. That's a pretty rare model. You don't see very often at all.
yeah, and Steve Okonski asked if that spring might be a tone spring, which I
Steve was in the shop when we were looking at that, when we were just like,
okay.
man, this got to be a tone spring. So definitive yes to Steven.
Nice. Spring might be a good idea. Have a 1927 Christman in for restringing. Susan Klein says it was in a local fraternity for 100 years. Wow, crazy. All right, cool. I just want to check in on the comments there.
I mean, speaking of
Um,
100 years, that's like an analogy that I'll use a lot to describe people, like the lifespan of a person, of a piano. It's similar to the lifespan of a person. I mean, the biggest difference is that at 100 years old or 80 to 100 years old, you can perform major surgery on the piano, and you can give it another 80 to 100 years. But with a person, you're not so much, but they're similar because you have 100-year-old people that are still functional. My grandmother was 101. She died a couple of years, or about a year ago, but she was fairly sharp to age 100
I'm
and
going to
still
200, man. So we'll figure out. We'll just got to figure out how to make it
yeah,
work.
some bionic nanotechnology maybe. But I mean, you can be 100 years old and still functioning, and a piano can be 100 years old with original parts and still functioning, but they're both going to need some work. The difference with the pianos is you can actually do the work relatively successfully, whereas a person maybe not so much.
I see somebody raise their hand, but maybe I don't see him anymore. Milky something. Where Paul? Did you have your hand up for a reason? Did you want to say something? Paul Milky? You can unmute yourself. You're muted right now. Do you know Paul, Brian?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. If you figure out how to. Oh, there you go. What's up, Paul?
Okay. Ivories are usually head and tails. Those keys look like,
Look like they're one piece. Yeah, that was a Yamaha, and probably most likely a Japanese. I remember it was a whatever their version of a concert grand is, right in his apartment on the fourth floor, third or fourth floor. Super long Yamaha from Japan, definitely one piece ivory. That's a really a good observation.
Yeah, astute observation. All right, let's hit the next one.
That was right outside. Someone cleared out a small piano. Actually, took the time to clear it out themselves. I'm sure we've all gotten the call. Oh, can you come take this piano apart? I want to put it out on the curb. Can you tell me how to take it apart? Like, nope, I cannot do that. But that one actually someone did, and that was actually right outside the shop. Looks like there's a takeout container in there too. I just noticed. So maybe someone ate lunch to celebrate they're taking that piano apart.
Some of these,
but yeah, that wasn't us. That was just someone did that, and I'm like, wow, you don't see this very often. I'll take a picture.
Some of these apartment buildings in New York, you might as well just take it apart, given how difficult it is to navigate the stairs.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, I'm sure. Have you ever gotten the call? Your business, Ethan, have you gotten the call to drop a key bed so the piano can go in to the apartment?
No, I actually haven't. I haven't done that.
Oh yeah,
but,
happens to us a couple times a year. It's like, how expensive is this going to be? It's like, it's going to be expensive.
There you go.
Yeah, but I mean, we'll do it. I mean, a lot of those old pianos have not only are the arms which support the key bed are screwed on with heavy screws, but they're glued on too. So you have to remove the screws and then break the glue joint with like a big rubber mallet.
Well, it's interesting about this is I know in New York, it never followed through, but I have gotten a couple calls where people wanted the soundboard removed. Or sorry, the pin block. No, sorry, the plate removed from a piano. I think what they wanted actually was the back of the piano with it strung and everything, but then everything else removed, right? So that somebody could like strum the strings and do
right,
stuff like that.
Right, yeah, yep. People always want a lot of variation with their piano, with like an old piano, but they don't realize how much sweat and labor it has to go into it to do
that. Yeah. We're trying to train them.
That's always something I love to see. I absolutely love when you see like a or a wood color variation in an ebony sharp. A lot of times people think all ebony is all black, but that's not the case at all. There's white ebony, brown ebony, and usually pianos are black, but occasionally you'll get something like that I think is super cool.
That is cool. All right. I see a few comments in here, but no questions.
So I threw in a lot of Wurlitzer and Rhodes picks. We also do a lot of work on Fender Rhodes and Wurlitzers. And Steve, who's actually listening, Steve Okonski, who moved to Asheville, North Carolina, was working with me quite a bit. We kind of started that business up in 2013, I think, and that's become a huge part of my business. Especially with the pandemic, the prices of these things have skyrocketed. So just, if anyone's looking to change it up and just branch out from working on pianos, only acoustic pianos, Wurlitzers are closer to acoustic pianos in terms of actions than Rhodes are, but they're both pretty fun to work on. And so we started doing custom. This is mostly me. I just started doing custom cases, and this is one of the most unique ones that I did. I think the next picture will show you what inspired this look.
Now, when you say you started doing custom cases, meaning you created the case, or it's brought it in to work on it and it had a custom case?
Yeah, veneered and painted. That's an earlier model. That's a 140B. That's so veneered and then painted the top. It initially was like a beige, kind of nondescript beige, and then added those wood legs. Initially it had, actually that did have wooden legs, but it was like a 60s kind of modeled beige look. But
that's beautiful.
Flip over to the next picture. I think is, if I included it. Yeah, it's modeled after a 1940s Packard. Actually,
there you go. That's awesome. Yeah,
that's a car that actually had wooden panels on the frame. Why not put wood on your car?
Why not? Especially in this winter time here, we got all this snow and salt. I'm sure it'd go over quite well.
There's two other just, Rhodes and Wurlitzers. I mean, again, I could have added a ton of pianos. There's some piano pictures in there that we do custom stuff. I like to, try to find some ways to set yourself apart, do something unique, do something that no one else has done. I'm not saying other people haven't done that, but you just don't see that stuff very often. So just ways that we do. And then I just happen to have an old green Jaguar. Oh, actually that's a new guitar, but throwback to a Jaguar. So I threw that in there.
And again, with these particular instruments, are you painting them or just refurbishing them and they just happen to come in this way, or what do you do?
We definitely, as a piano store owner and as acoustic piano guy, first of all, I will say working on Rhodes and Wurlitzers is much easier than working on acoustic pianos. Although the electronics can be a little hairy, but the mechanics are easier they're more simple than pianos. So we do the insides, to the nines. We make them sound as good as we can. And then, those are just painted, and then Rhodes are actually recovered in Tolex. But, it's funny. I don't know if you guys have come across, everyone knows the Revlitz book, or I would imagine most of them do, but have you ever come across an earlier version? I think maybe from the 80s, he actually had a chapter on Fender Rhodes in there, which is pretty cool. Then he cut it out as, in later editions. So he was talking about Fender Rhodes for a little while.
That's cool.
This guy I can't remember his name. He was a great stride piano player. He just showed up with his piano in the van like that, right outside the shop. And he was like, "Can you tune this right now? I'm going to the park." I'm like, "Let's do it. Let's do it." So, I mean, there's been a couple people who actually have mini pianos who have brought it to me to tune. I'm just a unique thing. Who, as a piano tuner, how nice would that be? How nice would that be if people could bring their pianos to us? He did.
I told a story also here a couple weeks ago. There was a band, this was in New York, a band coming through town, and they had an upright that they wanted tuned, and we just met at a mutual agreed upon location, and they just took the piano out of the back of the van and they set it down on the sidewalk. I tuned it out there, but it just happened to be, where Prospect Park, like the sort of Arc de Triomphe looking kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was right over there, and so the background noise was horrible.
Was that there was that project I think it's almost every year where they drop a bunch of pianos around the city.
No, it actually wasn't. It was just a band coming through town, and they just needed a piano tuning.
Nice. Yeah, outdoor tunings are always super fun. There's a couple more pictures that we'll get to that I can share more information. What is that? Oh, Rezatonic Scale. It's cool. Winter. We all know we've all worked on a Winter, I'm sure, at some point. Probably the less said about Winter, the better, but they were using a Rezatonic scale, whatever that means.
That sounds pretty awesome. I would definitely try to implement a Rezatonic scale on one of those Wurlitzers. I think it would
we've heard of Resophonic. I've seen Resophonic, but I don't know about Rezatonic. Oh, this is one of my favorites. Any guesses as to what that is?
Looks dirty as all get out. Is that like a little nest of something in there?
It is. I think it's a spider. Maybe some spider eggs is another inside joke. But I think, but the fact is, like, the spider or whatever that was made it look like a accelerated action pairing. Perfect. He's like, I'm going to add another pin. I'm going to add another pin right here. So nice. There's another vision. Yeah,
another view, bird's eye. Had to get the drone photography for that one.
This was on the side of one of the most beautiful pianos that I ever sold. There's a really beautiful print that I just stamped. G. Schvechten. That's you can. That's basically an upright, so that's just stamped on the side. The next picture has the pedals too. I got some cool pedal pictures. That's just some really beautiful stamped pedals that I've had. I'm a sucker for anything that's unique or ornate, decorative. We all say, I don't have any pictures, but when you come across a plate, especially on an upright, that's got a pen and ink drawing on it. On a grand, it's cool, but on a grand, you see it more often. It's almost designed to be seen. But on an upright, a plate is never designed to be seen. And if you come across one 100 years old, almost always where they did an elaborate pen and ink drawing on the plate. It's just a different time, you know. It's just like, who would do that today? Take the time to draw something, hand draw something on a plate, especially if it's never meant to be seen.
Yeah, and of course these, it's not like you can, they're not mass producing pedals like this, right? Like somebody had to, I don't know if they custom make it or at least make a custom mold for pedals.
Yeah,
like
I would
that.
imagine a mold. Yeah, I've only seen one G Schvechten, and it's still. I've tuned it a couple years ago. It's in Park Slope.
I got a comment here from Carl Lieberman. He said, when he tunes a Rhodes, he rotates the harp and plucks the tines with a guitar pick. But for the bass, he finishes up from above because the big tines wobble and need to be cleaned up. How do you tune? Only when rotated or also from above?
Both. I would do the rough tuning from above, and he's talking about the harp actually flips up. So a Rhodes, just for those who don't have experience with them, is tines. It's bars of metal with little, called springs, but they're basically little coils around them, and you just move the coils in and out. If you move the coil towards the end of the tine, it makes it flatter. If you move it towards you, it makes it sharper. You can flip the harp up vertically at a 90-degree angle to the keyboard, and then you can just pluck the tines with your hands and move the springs also with your hands. That's the fastest way to rough tune it. But then you really need to fine tune it with the hammers, and I'll tune it like a piano, stretched a little bit. With that, you can just use a little screwdriver. It helps if it has a little fork V cut in it. You can push the coils back and forth very subtly. So you're onto the proper way, at least the way that I do it. Rough upright, because it's so much faster, and then flip it down and tune it like you would a piano, playing the keys.
And you said there's a light stretch on it, right? But because of the nature of the resonating part, or the vibrating part, it's not as much of a stretch as a piano, right?
You can read a lot about different opinions on chat groups for electric pianos, but I find that you could stretch it a little bit, but I wouldn't stretch it as much as a piano.
Mm-hmm. Have you heard this thing where if you bow piano strings with like a violin bow, then they don't have what is it? Like they don't have inharmonicity or something? Have you heard of this?
Never heard that. I think it'd be hard to bow a violin, hard to bow a piano string.
Yeah.
Just like the clearance that you would need. I don't know how you would do it.
Are you familiar with this David Clavins guys who makes the pianos where you have to climb a staircase to play them? They've got like these really long bass strings.
Yeah, I've seen the pictures of that. That looks cool.
Yeah.
I just saw a question pop up. I'll just answer it.
Oh,
I think it was,
sure.
I don't know if it was for me, but it's just, have you met Dan Levitin? I'll say Dan Levitin's one of the best tuners and one of the nicest people in the country. I've worked with him for years, and I've got nothing bad to say about that man, and I don't think anyone does.
Yeah. Dan's an integral part of the New York and Brooklyn piano scene as well, and he always brings that city, that city style piano tuner story to like conventions, right? Because the majority of us piano tuners are kind of driving around in cars, just you can put your tools in your trunk or your van or whatever. But
Yeah.
You said, for us, it's a lot of riding around on buses and
yeah. He's done a couple of different meetings over the years where it's just like, refine your toolkit. What's the New York City toolkit? I think it even made it into the journal one time. But
yeah,
I'm not doing as much field tuning, so I've kind of gone away from a super light bag. I've gone back to a heavier one, but for years when I was on the train all the time, I tried to keep it light. This is one thing that we did. That's just actually plexiglass and a decal, but we've done frosted glass. Yeah, it's a very affordable and safer way. We've done frosted glass inserts. That's in a,
and originally this would have been just a wood panel that would slide open or something?
Probably.
Or
No, I've never seen the only pianos that slide I've seen would be player piano, but that either initially had ornate cutout, which a lot of times break, and then or just a solid wood panel. So I've done the frosted glass, or I did do one with frosted glass way back when. I don't have a picture of it here. That one looked amazing, but that one, it was actually a mirror piano, a cutaway. So I took the mirror off and put a frosted glass. It looked good. But yeah, that's just plexi and a decal, a very affordable way to make something unique. And then also what's
Yeah.
cool about that is you can get different decals as well.
Yeah. Nowadays, I'm sure, right? Like everything you can find on the internet, you could get some really
Yeah.
cool decals.
Yeah, keep going. Oh, tonk. Funny word, funny, funny name for a piano. I've never seen a tonk, but it's just like, tonk is almost a derogatory term for tone, a honky tonk. It's like, but yeah, that's a tonk piano. That's right in Brooklyn. I tune that once a year.
That's always fun. Yeah, you always you run into those names where you're like, did they realize they named it like to name it like a bad sounding piano?
Right.
Or when they use like the name of like a famous composer or something, and, and then you know it's a bad piano. You've never heard of the piano brand, you've only heard of the composer. A Mozart piano, you know?
Yeah, totally. International pitch 430 A435. That's a Chas Steef that's in Bed-Stuy, easily 100 years old. But I didn't realize that there was ever an international pitch, but I guess there was. I don't know. I did know that older pianos were not designed to be tuned at A440, but that sticker was on there.
And then the question here in the chat actually about Dan Levitan was how did you meet him? What was your first contact at like a PTG meeting or something?
Yeah. I when I first moved to New York, I was I was pretty green, and so I was kind of nervous about the piano technician skills. I'm like, oh man, I'm not up to that level. I can't go there. These are pros. But I went, and everyone was so welcoming, and that's what was great about the New York chapter. As you said, is really strong. And Dan was there, and he just introduced himself and made himself available, and then he was doing a lot of the classes, and so I learned a lot from him for sure.
Yeah, he's really generous.
Oh, one of my favorites. Well, I guess I almost gave it away, but do you know that the type of piano that has the light in the music desk?
I heard you say a word, but I would only guess like Jansen or something. I don't know. No.
That's it. It's a Jansen.
Oh.
Maybe other makers did it too, but it's a brilliant design, and usually they don't work. But usually the bulb is just burned out, and it's one of those. I don't know the name of the bulb. It's one of those tube style bulbs. But if you just replace the bulb and then it works, it's so cool, and it just lights up the music. It looks. I mean, obviously that's just with the lid up. I thought it looked cool that way too, but it lights up the music. It's just a great design. I thought it's really cool. I always like a Jansen when I can see it light up.
Cool.
It lights me up.
Nice.
Pretty cool. That was well, you can see that's wood. So that's an old player piano, actually. Very old. I don't know, $445 is going to buy you a working player piano these days, but I mean, maybe cash price, maybe you have to have cash, but they put that they burned that into the back of the piano.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully that was a good price at the time. You're kind of limiting yourself by putting that.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh yeah. This was on a Mason. Never seen a rep like that. My only guess is that someone decided this piano's heavy. I need to remove weight. And they tried to drill out of the rep, which would not reduce the weight. But I mean, theoretically, it would reduce the weight incrementally, but not enough to make a difference.
Huh. All right. Or maybe they had some cool idea. They were going to insert some sort of special.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
Magnetic super.
A tone spring. A tone spring.
A tone spring in there. Yeah. There you go. Is this Washington Square Park?
Yeah. Maybe you guys have come across Colin Huggins, who's in and out of town now since the pandemic, but he's the Washington Square Park tuner. First of all, that's a Steinway B that he brings out to the park. Well, he used to
Washington Square Park player. You said tuner, right? But
I'm sorry. Yes, he's the Washington Square Park. I was the Washington Square Park.
You're the tuner. Nice.
I was. Yeah. That's a January day a couple years ago. That's probably one of the coldest tunings. So I mean, it's like I figured I definitely went through some seriously uncomfortable tunings, but I figured if he's gonna schlep a Steinway B out there and play all day, I'll get paid to tune the piano. I'll show up and tune the piano. So
And he just has like is it like a truck or like a trailer or whatever? He
he has
just.
it on a dolly that he keeps it at a church nearby and just wheels it
Mm-hmm.
on its side, obviously, but then sets it up. It's very ambitious.
Yeah, New York's got all kinds of characters.
That's just a Rhodes custom cheek block. Like pianos have some really nice wood. Why not Rhodes? Initially, they're black plastic that they can get pretty scratched up. That's actually a 2-part. Not out of design. I think I probably made a mistake and cut the damn thing too short and just decided to put a cap on it.
Cool. But it was plastic, and you said, hey,
Yeah,
why don't
yeah.
I put some wood there? Cool.
Yep, exactly.
That's awesome.
That's a good one. The picture's a little blurry, but that was a picture. There's an Instagram post about. I actually did some research about the Mr. John Cheshire, who was a harp player. That was his concert at Steinway Hall, March 11th, 1870s.
Wow.
And then I just added some other things in there that I've found over the years. Obviously, we've seen the paper punchings. That's a buffalo nickel. Wheat pennies aren't as common, but I love them when I see it. When I find a wheat penny, it makes my whole day. Big fan.
Nice. Not the rat carcass, the mouse carcass.
Yeah. There's another picture of the ticket. I think that is the actual piano it was used as a shim under the key bag.
Wow.
So you can see the screw hole in it. It was propping up the key bed.
Wow, that's a really beautiful card.
I'm
That'd
sorry,
be
not
cool.
the key bed, the key frame. It was between the key bed and the key frame as a shim.
Yeah. And you're saying this is like a ticket to the show?
Yeah, it's a ticket. It's an actual ticket to the show. So
Wow.
what someone probably, maybe it didn't get used or whatever, a Steinway worker was like, I need a piece of paper, and just found it, grabbed it. Or maybe they went to the show and like, I got to put this to shim up the key bed.
That's pretty cool. Piano Works LLC said, ever worked on a helping still? I gotta imagine you have.
Absolutely. Yeah. I did an action mod that made it play a little bit better. Geez, I don't remember exactly what I did, but I did a mod for a band that had a pretty big show at this old theater over in New Jersey. And then I went there and tuned it for the show. That's actually one of the most high profile tunings I ever did, because I had to do a touch up, or it was like the tuning right before the show started because time was tight, and there were like 2,500 to 3,000 people there while I was tuning.
Was that the trumpeter? What was that band? I think they had a helping still.
What was the band?
You know who I'm talking about? Oh, Beirut?
Yeah,
Beirut?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Beirut. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that was the one. We modded the action to make it a little bit better, and then.
Nice. Yeah, I think I tuned that piano once or twice.
Oh, that was New York City in the pandemic. Probably like April or May of 2020. I did a tuning for a gentleman who was literally dying of cancer, and it was very sad. And he asked if I would come tune his piano, and I wasn't doing much. And so I went, and then I walked. That was in Chelsea, I think, and I just walked all the way home back to Brooklyn. And there's another. I think there's one other picture that, I mean, just like to see New York City with nothing on the streets was so surreal. You know, this was probably like 3 or 4 p.m. and that's in New York. That's a Manhattan street.
Right. Yeah, it reminds me of when the Hurricane Sandy, I think, too, and like the power went out, and everybody, nobody was out. I remember going through the city, and it was just kind of a dead zone like that too.
Very surreal. Very surreal. That's another pandemic shot. I was able to just take one of my Wurlitzers and just roll it right in the middle of an intersection and no cars anywhere. Just take a bunch of pictures. I mean, in New York City, small towns, no problem. I grew up in a small town, but in New York, that's the shop actually right on the corner. But it's not the busiest of streets. But in New York, you just, as you know, you can't bring a piano in the middle of an intersection and take pictures of it.
Oh, I missed that. Just a sec.
Probably the same. Oh yeah, there's another.
Yeah, that's a good shot.
That's just light blue.
Very cool. And so again, Do you bring these in, just like find them and grab them, or is it
Yeah,
people
yeah.
come in and they say, hey,
Both.
both? Okay.
Yeah, customers will like want they see a custom paint job that we've done that they like, or I'll buy them too, and sell them. So
And then when you buy them and you paint them, do you just go ahead and make your own like design decision there, or do you wait until somebody says they want it and then, implement, whatever
uh
they want?
I paint it what color I either paint I have or what color I think will sell.
Okay.
The lighter colors, light green and light blue, are very popular.
Cool.
We've all seen this, the Ori acoustic. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but Ori acoustic. It's like another Rezatonic. I don't remember.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I usually like that's the thing. You can't usually find both of those features on the same piano, but man, if you can,
Yeah, if you
boy.
can, you have to have $435 cash to buy it. What does that say underneath? High something underneath. I don't know. High something.
Richer tone, extended volume, greater stability. Oh, ten, high tension
Yeah,
scale. High
high
tension
tension
scale.
scale. That's the Ori acoustic mark of
Beautiful.
excellence.
Beautiful.
Another one, Ori acoustic
Ooh,
tone. That's a
same
pretty cool.
piano?
Yeah, I think so. It's a nice font. I like that.
It is, yeah. The font's probably better than the piano.
Yeah, agreed. I think, yeah, we're a few more left. We're gonna get through them all. Oh,
Cool.
this is a piano that I've done. This look people like the hybrid wood and black. That's like a very wood tone, natural wood and black was like a very Art Deco look. I don't know of any piano manufacturers that ever did that out of the factory, but we've done about 5 or 6 of these over the years.
And so you're saying, did it come in like that and you were inspired to keep it, or that
No.
was
So it
kind of
came
an
in
idea?
black. It came in all black, and
Huh,
it's probably pretty. So we stripped away some of the wood, and then not other parts, and cleaned up other parts, and resprayed some other parts. And
cool. Yeah, that's really cool looking.
oh man, that's shout out to Charles Falk. That's the tuning hammer that I picked up at the beginning of the pandemic. That's uh, bog oak. So that's oak that was it's thousands of years old. That was um, landed in a river, I guess, and then made its way to the bottom, and then basically started the process of petrification under a bog of dirt, and then that's what gives it that black look. It's just the tannins. Charles Falk can explain exactly much more than I can. He posted on Instagram that he made one, and I was like, that's the coolest thing ever. So I picked one up. That's like
Nice.
at least 2,000 or 3,000 years old of the wood of the handle.
Wow. Yeah, I like those hammers. These are good stuff.
Oh, these are just some dates. You can go through the next one's pretty like I've just the tuning date. All of the same piano. Go through the next couple. That's 1922. There's dates all over pianos, which I love too. That's 1939, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Keep going. That's I got a block. I got like a
December
pop up.
30,
Yeah, that's on the action frame.
1879.
1879 stamped. I think there might be one more. 1870 something on pressure bar. Yep. You can always find dates. It's so cool to get just pictures of dates.
Mm-hmm.
There's another. I just sold that one actually. That's another custom veneer Wurlitzer. Yeah, I think there's only a couple left because we're getting pretty recent. No, that's another same model as before, but different look.
Yeah, very cool.
Another guitar.
Guitars have been. Does the music desk come like that, or is that
it was cut out like that? But I did veneer. I veneered the outside and then painted the inside cut out to match the top. And guitars, real quick. I mean, guitars have become a main part of my business too. That started just kind of funny. Like my old shop on Smith, people kept coming in asking if we sold guitars because I was sharing the space at the time with the guy who did lessons. And so people were like, where are the guitars? And we just kept hearing that over and over for years. And so finally I just was like, I got to start selling some guitars. And now Brooklyn Fine Guitars is probably making me more money than piano work, probably.
Mm-hmm. And what was that like getting into that? I mean, what do you have to just get relationships with manufacturers and distributors or something, and then just figure out what your inventory is? You
Yeah, I
get some kind of
started
groove, I
small.
guess.
Yeah, I started small. Found a retailer who kind of could deal factory seconds. So guitars that had little blemishes here and there, but were still pretty solid. And I mean, that's a whole nother story. But I mean, if you have a piano store and you want to try to find another stream of revenue, guitars will hang on your wall and they won't get in the way of the pianos at all. So that would be the tip. Steve, I just saw another question. Steve mentioned another crazy project that I don't have a picture of, but this one guy paid us a bunch of money to put contact mics in each of the under the keys of each of 88 keys of an old Steinway upright. So you would actually hear the sound of your finger hitting the key along with the strings being struck. We went to the premiere. It's a pretty big visual artist, and we went to the premiere at a Chelsea gallery, but maybe they didn't have the sound or the balance right, but all we could hear was just crazy, like loud thunder of the fingers hitting keys. Like you could not really hear the piano at all. But we installed 88 contact mics in an upright once.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a custom Rhodes came out pretty well. Just custom red Tolex.
And the case, what's up with the case? Like, so
that's the Tolex. Tolex is the covering, so we put that on. Normally it's black, but we changed it to red.
And it's what is Tolex again? It's like
Tolex is like a vinyl plastic covering. It's like a car.
So you actually have to. So you order it in like sheets.
Exactly.
Of fabric.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Huh. And then I think that one, I can't tell. I think that might have the original black cheek block, or it might be wood. I can't quite tell, but
yeah, it looks like maybe it is wood. It does have
I think it might be wood.
Look to it.
If you're gonna go that far, you may as well go with the wood.
Yeah. How about that one though? That instrument, was that something you decided to do, or a client came in?
I think that was a customer. That was a client.
Yeah.
This is a quick funny story. This is the best gig I've ever had. I probably did about 15 of these in the pandemic. There was this group called Pop Up New York, where the concerts would pop up all outside, and I was the alternate tuner, but I got paid the full rate to show up and just watch from a distance. And the only way I would have to work is if the original tuner tested positive for COVID. So I got paid my full rate to go to these tunings, maybe 10 or 15, and just hang out for 15 or 20 minutes to make sure that the existing tuner didn't have COVID. And I mean, I had a better gig than he did. He actually, he would have to do the work. I just showed up, rode my bike to the gig, hung out for 10 minutes and left, and then got paid. So that was one where that's a venue on the Lower East Side, Manhattan.
I've never seen that.
Yeah, yes. I hadn't seen it either. Not too far north of the Manhattan Bridge. And that was just one where I showed up and they're like, okay, well, you guys tuning. Thanks again. That's just a classic. That's inspired by Cuba, but that's right on Smith Street in Brooklyn. That's my Wurlitzer. A lot of times if I see a crazy old car, I'll just grab a guitar or a Wurlitzer or something and try to get a picture with it. There's the two logos.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh, this is a good New York thing. I always like that. If you see rib sep, I always call it the MetroCard test. It doesn't even cost you a fare to try to swipe and try to figure out if you have rib separation under a piano.
Nice. These are our transportation subway cards.
Oh, this is a good one. This is one actually I did with Mike, who's working here now. We removed a player piano from the system that was just in the way. It's totally busted. And like, what do you want to do with this? She's like, no, just put this out in my garden. I'm like, okay. Dropped it in the garden, and that was it. So it's like a home for birds or squirrels or something.
Nice.
Oh, worst design I've ever seen. This is in a Playel, I think. Those are, you guys probably can see what that is. That's the under lever system, but those are threaded in. The dampers are threaded in to the under levers. So. And all the flanges are broken, or not all of them, but a lot of them are broken, and they're glued into place like the old Steinway style. So they're not screwed. So there's no way to get them out, without putting a massive torque on the flange and probably breaking it. they're threaded like that. You can see the screw threads. I just came across this the other day and I was just like, this is just awful. Yep, old chickering's. I'm sure other ones have them too. This is one of the most unique pianos I've ever seen. It's a twist. That thing, the scale of it is crazy, but the lid is so heavy that you need 2 or 3 people to lift it up. It's it's that's a full 88 note piano.
What's it called? A twist?
Signet twist, I think. Signet. It's one of those just one-off European made. It's a very nice action. It's all WNG parts. But it's a very small scale, probably smallest grand you'll ever see. And then you have to have 2 or 3 people lift that lid because there's a brass ring that I think is already removed at this point that goes in that kind of oval insert, and you have to remove that to tune it. So you have to lift the lid, have people hold the lid while you hold the lid prop, put the lid prop down, and then remove the brass ring.
Sounds scary.
I think we're at the very end. That's a very tiny little piano. Just go to the next one. You'll see why I ever seen that.
Is that wood pedals? What is that?
A piano with wooden pedals.
That's
it's just
cool.
Designed for kids. I just never seen wooden pedal piano.
I've seen a couple cool. There was at least one piano that was a lot like this, which we fixed up, and it said it was a Kawai, I think. It was made by K Kawai, and I think I looked it up, and the story was like he made a few like micro pianos before getting, building the piano company that he did. If I got that, I might be making that story up, but it was a pretty well designed tiny little piano.
I think this is the last one. I just took this yesterday or 2 days ago.
Yeah.
And you guys notice anything there?
15.5 on the string size. 1, 2, 3. There's 3 pins per note.
You said it right away. 15.5, but
15.5. Yeah.
Look where it's stamped.
Over the screw.
Yeah, I've never seen a stamp on a screw head like that. If you think about like if you ever took it apart,
you take it out,
and you got a half size, someone's gonna be confused. Like this is calling for a half size string. I don't know, just little things like that. I mean, I know you've done a lot of the master classes, and you got some seriously heavyweights showing a lot of piano things, but I just figured one little unique thing I could do was just show some random pictures of smaller things that you just might not see.
That was a blast, man. I think we had a really good time. We usually end right at the hour, so we went over a little bit because I knew you were close to the end of the photos that you were sharing. But I hope people really, I really appreciate it. We got a chance to kind of bring you over and introduce you to everyone in the group and have a nice chat. We filled out pretty nicely here. Oh, I see your lovely better half is here too. Betty's on her own computer. That's fun.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Thanks, Betty. No, I appreciate you guys checking it out. It was fun. If you're ever in New York, we're always at the shop or my new space. Look me up, come and check out. We're ready to talk pianos or talk anything.
Cool. Awesome. Well, if there's not any last comments or questions, we'll let Brian get on with his day. He's a busy guy. He's got a lot of interesting pianos to work on, as we've seen. So yeah, thanks again, everybody, for showing up as you typically do, and thanks, Brian, for sharing this time with us today. And we'll see everybody next week. Have a good one.
You got it, guys. Good luck, guys.
Catch you later, Brian.
Take care. See ya.